According to South Wales Police, the CC gang that was led by good friends Tyrese Jones and Cameron Farrah had profited to the tune of more than £300,000. 25-year-old Cameron Farrah and 23-year-old Tyrese Jones, who were from the Ely area of Cardiff, had recruited teenagers and young adults from the most vulnerable parts of Cardiff and Vale of Glamorgan. Now, these were teenagers and young adults who had little to no money, whom were on the poverty line, whom were from broken homes or grew up in the foster care system. Their family was limited, which made them easy to persuade to join their gang. Not only did Cameron Farrah and Tyrese Jones offer their runners a false fairy tale of being part of a brotherhood and friends and making money and how they could support each other, they were effectively trafficked in order to do the drug gang's bidding, and that was sell Class A 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, no days off, and worst of all, they weren't put up in a home or a flat. They were left to sell Class A in wooded areas underneath makeshift tents. Remember, Cameron and Tyrese had used the already abandoned teenagers to sell Class A on their behalf, and if a runner decided that they no longer wanted to work for the gang, that was not an option. They were either struck or told that they owed a debt, and there were also items left as a reminder for the gang to know they would be used on the runners. Now, Cameron and Tyrese were the definition of tyrants. According to police, the victims were forced to spend day and night on a 7-day cycle in secluded wooded areas under tarp or torn bed sheets that had been fastened to makeshift tents. In rain, in sleet or high winds, the victims sold Class A white and H on a 24-hour basis. When police looked into the CC line after a tip-off from a member of the public, police were given the names Cameron Farrah and Tyrese Jones. Technically, Cameron Farrah was the leader. He was at the top of the hierarchy, and just below him was Tyrese Jones. Now, it was said that the line was operating across large parts of Cardiff and the Vale of Glamorgan. Under the tutelage of the crime boss enforcers 23-year-old Shaquille Lavelle, 28-year-old Joshua Dunbar, and 25-year-old Taylor Penny Soraya Williams. They were used to be the runner's point of contact. The dealers were also in charge of dropping off the shipments and ensuring that the money was all there. These people would often drop kilos at a time for the runners to sell. Now, unbeknownst to police, the CC line had been running for actual years in Cardiff. Now, as part of the investigation, police went to the secluded wooded area and found the makeshift tents. They also found wraps of diffused packages that contained traces of both white and H, needles, and of course pipes. Police also spoke to 4 of the half a dozen runners in which they described the heinous treatment of not being allowed home or speak to friends or family, mums or dads or brothers and sisters, not given any hot food or clean change of clothes, and also being forced to sleep in the woods when no sales were in. At any given time, the runners described sitting on old discarded furniture away from the public, surrounded by large blades like machetes, hammers, screwdrivers, and also carving blades. They were paid minimally for their time selling Class A, while Cameron and Tyrese and Shaquille and Joshua and Taylor raked in tens of thousands of pounds a week. Now, it was believed that the blades that were surrounded were not only for the gang to use as protection against rivals or users that were not trying to pay for their drug, but it was a literal reminder that the blades would be used on the runners if they messed up or if they thought for even a second that they could leave the gang. Now, this was between November of 2023 and January 2024, but also remember, the CC line had been operating for years, unbeknownst to police. Joshua Dunbar, Cameron Farrah, and Shaquille Lavelle were arrested in a property in Highbury Road in Ely, Cardiff, on March 13th of 2024. Over a dozen police officers had conducted an early morning raid on the house in Cardiff, and when they stormed through that door and went through the hallway, they found Cameron and Shaquille caught packaging up 2 kilos of H in the living room. They were in the process of wrapping it in cling film as it had been pressed. The drawer had been prepared for sale. Now, police also arrested the man responsible for hiding the CC Line's money, which included transferring at least £100,000 into crypto. Joshua, Cameron, and Shaquille phones were then taken, and when police opened up the phones, they found pictures of the Brazen Crime Gang. Now, they had pictures of holding Class A, at least 3 or 4 kilos, but they also had a picture of a birthday cake, and their faces were pictured on the birthday cake with the name CC, referring to their CC line. Police were also able to find messages which showed that they were offering 2 for 20 deals, and also mass marketing messages to users. And it also showed that Cameron and Tyrese had instructed their dealers like Shaquille and Taylor to ensure that the vulnerable runners did not leave the woods under any circumstances, and they were told to make sure that the runners were searched thoroughly too, to make sure they were not taking some of the Class A off the top. Now, in blunt terms, the judge that sentenced members of the CC gang to jail says that the images and the messages showed that the gang had showed a total disregard for human life and even gloated at using vulnerable teenagers to carry out their dealings. The runners were looked at as stock, a commodity even, and it didn't matter if they were arrested, bladed, or even left hungry, as more runners could always be recruited for the purpose of selling Class A. Now again, during the arrest, 2 kilos of H was seized by police. Now, as for Tyrese Jones, he was arrested 2 weeks later at his home address, and Soraya Williams was arrested on April 18th of 2024, and all 5 members of the CC line had appeared at Newport Crown Court on Tuesday, March 18th, and their sentences were as follows. 25-year-old Cameron Farrah, he pled guilty to 2 counts of conspiracy to supply Class A, possession with intent to supply Class A, and 2 counts of using vulnerable teenagers to sell his product. He was jailed for 8 years and 9 months. 23-year-old Tyrese Jones, from Ely as well, pled guilty to the same charges. 2 counts of conspiracy to supply Class A, possession with intent to supply Class A, and also using vulnerable teenagers to sell Class A, and he was given the same sentence, 8 years and 9 months. 23-year-old Shaquille Lavelle, he pled guilty to 2 counts of conspiracy to supply Class A and possession with intent to supply Class A, and he was jailed for 6 years and 4 months. Joshua Dunbar was said to be the person that was laundering the gang's money, and he pled guilty to concealing property, namely £104,000 worth of cash and crypto, and he was sentenced to 25 months. 25-year-old Taylor Williams pled guilty to participating in activities of an organised crime group, and he was sentenced to a 10-month prison sentence, which was suspended for 18 months. He was also told that he would have to perform 120 hours of unpaid work and also go to a rehabilitation centre. As for the vulnerable teenagers that were used to help the CC line profit to hundreds of thousands of pounds, they were said to have suffered PTSD and trauma and stress. Does the crime match the sentence? Let me know. Stay safe.